All right, so we are going to talk about the digestive system or the gastrointestinal system, often referred to as the GI tract. This is a pretty complicated system. You can go into a lot of different areas. We can talk about nutritional absorption, we can talk about enzymes, we can talk about fat storage and all that fun jazz. But what we're primarily going to focus on is just the anatomy piece of what you're going to find when you're working with different animals. So avians have a much different gastrointestinal system than mammals do. And even then within mammals, we have ruminants, we have pseudo-ruminants, we have herbivores, we have carnivores, we have omnivores. So we have all these different feedstuffs. And so our gastrointestinal system needs to change in order to meet those needs to absorb those nutrients that they're getting. So we're going to start looking first at some categories. So these can be broken down in some different ways. We've got ruminants and pseudo-ruminants. So we're going to refer to those as foregut fermentators. So we're talking about the fermentation of the food or the breakdown of the feedstuffs. And then we have monogastric and hindgut fermenters. Now, hindgut fermenter is the same as a monogastric fermenter. So those two are categorized as the same, and we're going to break that piece down. Um, Things that are common, right? So two things that are common regardless of what kind of gastrointestinal system I have. One, I got a mouth. So your animals have an entrance for the feed. So that is going to be the start of our digestive breakdown. We get an item in the mouth, we start mastication, or the teeth are grinding. So that's providing a breakdown of the feedstuffs into smaller particles. So that chewing is also going to stimulate salivation in our animals. That salivation is going to assist in that breaking down of your material, and then it starts the absorption process. So we have a cool thing that starts just as soon as you put food in your mouth. And we know that some animals have been trained, and you guys, even if you smell something, you start to salivate because you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So everything's going to start in the mouth. A really cool thing too, when you guys are chewing, if you're eating Flamin' Hots, if you're eating mashed potatoes, throw a handful of crackers in your mouth or something, when you're chewing, you're going to notice, and hopefully you can notice and it still happens, but your tongue is actually working your food into what we call a bolus shape. So when you're chewing, your tongue is acting to mold your food into a ball-like structure, and that then is going to make sure that it smoothly goes down your esophagus. So if you ever try to just swallow something without chewing it, it's really difficult and it doesn't always go down right. And our reflex is to chew it, and part of that is to get it into that bolus piece. So once we have a bolus of foodstuffs, our muscles work with what we call a peristalsis. So in order to get your food from your esophagus into your stomach, gravity is awesome, but gravity is not just going to be what gets you there. This is why you can be hanging upside down and eat food. Why you would, I don't know. Um, but or you could be laying down and eating food on the couch, right? And your food still goes into your stomach. The reason this happens is because of a mechanical or a muscle contraction called peristalsis. And so you have two different movements going on. You have a pushing in or a constriction around the actual tubule, so it's contracting it, it's making it smaller. So if you think about when you've got a push pop, like a freeze pop, and you just take your hand and you squeeze it, or even a tube of toothpaste, you just take your hand and you squeeze it. That's one piece of the action. The next piece of the action is a wave. So this then is the actual movement. It starts to move through and pushes it down. So this then is, once you've already pushed your toothpaste, you have to slide it forward. Or if you've got that freeze pop, right, it's halfway melted, you've eaten some of it, you push it closed, right? You pinch and then you push up. So that pushing up movement is part of the peristalsis as well. So your esophagus has, and your intestinal tract, your intestines have these two different movements happening at the very same time for you to get that food material down through your digestive tract. So those are the two main pieces. This is true no matter what kind of system you have. You have peristalsis and you have a mouth. Now this is where we start to get things that are a little more complex. So we'll first talk about monogastric animals. Monogastrics are a single compartment stomach. That's the main thing of a monogastric stomach. So, or what makes a monogastric animal monogastric. So mono meaning one, gastric, we're talking about our stomach. So all of our animals, except for ruminants and except for camelids, are considered monogastric animals. And we'll talk about ruminants and we'll talk about camelids in a little bit. Physiologically, in our monogastric animals, though, we've got herbivores, we've got carnivores, we have omnivores, we have things that are obligate carnivores. You've heard me talk about that with cats before. So what changes then is your structure of your stomach. So the cells that make up the lining in the stomach are going to change. What the stomach secretes is going to change a little bit. And then also our length of our intestines, as well as an organ called a cecum. So we have different pieces to our digestive tract. And in humans, we'll talk about this thing called a cecum that really doesn't exist, but in our herbivores, it does, and it plays a huge role. So monogastrics have the single compartment stomach. We are hindgut fermentators, or we use hindgut fermentation is what it's going to be referred to as you guys dive deeper into your studies. And then just note that your stomach, your physiology of your stomach, and your physiology of your intestinal tract, so your small and large intestine, and then also this organ called a cecum is going to change and differ. So that's going to be something we look for in those monogastric animals. First, going to break it down into simple hindgut fermenters. So these are omnivores. Also, carnivores are going to be put in here. So add that in there. So we've got the stomach chamber is going to produce the acid that breaks down the food particles. So we can do most of that feed stuff breakdown is going to happen in that single compartment stomach. Okay. Our cecum is pretty small or absent and doesn't play a vital role in the digestive process. So the cecum, we really don't even have it. If you look at those images, the mink, you can't find it at all. Neither on the aardwolf or your dog has teeny tiny little one. But it's really difficult to find those cecums. So it's pretty non-existent in those animals. And that's going to be your main thing. This is what we are, right? So we are simple hindgut fermenters. All right, so go through, open up the Google Doc, make sure that you are actually watching the videos. The videos are going to highlight the passage of feed stuff. So with a simple hindgut fermenter, we know, or we should be familiar with how it kind of runs through our system, because that's what we've got. So again, make sure you watch that video. You will be responsible for knowing and being able to map out the way the food travels through these different systems. So then we have our hindgut fermenters that are herbivores. Now, herbivores are unique. We can talk about primates, but we aren't, because primates are a whole nother thing. But we're going to mainly talk about our hoofstock animals that are herbivores, as well as our small companion herbivores like our guinea pigs and our rabbits. So the main breakdown of feed stuff for hindgut fermenters, when we talk about our hoofstock and our horses and our like rabbits and rodents and things, the fermentation and breakdown process happens primarily outside of the stomach, or posterior to the stomach. And this is where that cecum comes into play. So the cecum is going to be the fermentation vat. All of that hay, that roughage, the grasses, the bushes, they're all going to go hide out in the cecum. And that is where the primary breakdown of the particles is going to happen. Now, this does not include ruminants and camelids. Again, so ruminants and camelids are not hindgut fermenters. they're outside of this piece. They're going to have something different going on. So when we look at our stomach anatomy, right? Just like in all monogastrics, your anatomy, your physiology of your stomach is going to be different. I highlighted the horse's stomach because I know there's quite a few of us that are interested in working with horses. We also hear about horses having colic quite a bit, which is a gastrointestinal stomach issue. So horses' stomachs are pretty unique. And if you notice and you go back a few slides to the monogastric page, I pulled out an image that shows you the different glands and the different cell structure of the stomach lining, so you can kind of get an idea of the different animals, what they eat, and how their stomach's different. Now, horses, though, they're super unique in the fact that they have a rigid structure to their stomach. So when we talk about humans, right, you eat Thanksgiving dinner, and your stomach gets super huge and it stretches out, or you stop eating and your tummy gets super small. So there's some movement in and elasticity in our stomach. Same thing like canines, right? You don't want to feed an animal too much because that stomach will stretch out. But horses don't do that. Horses' stomachs are pretty rigid. So the top region of their stomach is made of squamous cells. And so the fiber actually is going to accumulate there. So when they're eating all of their hay, all of their grasses, it's going to make a barrier so food and the liquids don't pass up through the esophagus. The bottom part is the glandular part, which is the part that is actually producing the acids for breakdown. So that's what's getting started with the feed process. So main key points here is that your horse's stomach is rigid and that you've got a non-glandular and a glandular mucosa. So that top portion is going to be filled with the hay and the grasses, and it helps create a barrier of that stomach acid. Then we have the cecum. So the cecum is true again for all of our herbivores, and you can see that image of the rabbit, how much larger it is than in the human. And again, as mentioned, the cecum is that fermentation vat or that breakdown where that is going to occur. So we have a video of equine digestion. This is going to bring you through the trace of the feedstuffs for horses, or for all equine species actually. And this is super similar to herbivores in general. So when we had the rabbits and we had the guinea pigs, we talked about always kind of having feedstuffs available, right? And we had the alfalfa hay or the Timothy hay all the time for them. You're going to find that animals that are herbivores and are foragers, it's better to feed them more throughout the day, so to have a consistent feed going, so that way their stomach never empties, and not even just their stomach, but so their cecum doesn't empty. This video does a really great job at showing you the passage of hay through a horse's digestive tract. It also talks about what can happen if you are not feeding your horse regularly. So if you're only able to do 1 or 2 feedings a day versus multiples throughout, of how that can affect your animal's cecum in the digestive tract. The same rules can apply as well for your rabbits and your other herbivores that are on a high fibrous diet. Are not considered ruminants, but are pseudo-ruminants. So we're first going to break down into a foregut fermenter because we have 2 different types of foregut fermenters. So what makes a foregut fermenter a foregut fermenter is that I have multiple chambers in my stomach. So the fermentation is going to happen anterior to the true stomach. You're going to see the different compartments of the ruminant, of the cow's, goat's, deer stomach, and you'll be able to kind of see what that looks like, how it plays out a little bit more when I say true stomach. But there's multiple chambers into the stomach. A super easy way to just visualize and see an animal and know the difference between a ruminant and a non-ruminant is by looking at their top teeth. So if I'm a ruminant or a pseudo-ruminant, I will not have any incisors. I will have a very hard gum and not any incisors. So that is a good way to be able to just visualize and see like, oh, look, do you have top teeth? No, you don't have top teeth? Huh, well, you're a ruminant. They're also, our two-toed ungulates are going to also be, some of your two-toed ungulates, I should say, are going to be ruminants. So if you have 4 toes, you're not a ruminant. 2 toes, you are. And when we're talking about ungulates, we're talking about anything with hoofs. So ungulates are hoof stalks. So pseudoruminants, they are animals that have 3-chambered stomachs. So these are camelids. So camels, your llamas, your alpacas, these are going to have 3 chambers. If you're able to look at the Google Doc and you can zoom in on that picture, so it's showing you those 3 compartments. It doesn't name them, which is fine. We don't need to know the names for those compartments. The ruminants, though, is where we're going to spend a good amount of time as far as what we need to be responsible for knowing. This is one of those, people are like, oh, a cow has 4 stomachs. No, cows do not have 4 stomachs. They have 4 chambers in their stomach. So cows, goats, giraffes, moose, deer, again, 2-toed ungulates without a top incisors are going to be your true ruminant, your 4-chambered stomach. Your pseudo-ruminants, your camelids, your llamas, your alpacas, they actually have a modified, I was looking up the incisor stuff because camels apparently have 1 incisor on their top, but it's such a reduced kind of weird thing, it doesn't really count. But we're going to dive into true ruminants or 4-chambered stomach animals. So 4 chambers. You are going to be responsible for knowing what the 4 chambers are and where they're positioned on the stomach. So you should be able to label this diagram. The rumen is the first compartment, is the largest compartment. This is the compartment where we talk about being able to stick our hand in the side of a cow. They will do holes. They will make cannula holes in the side of the rumen, and you can then put your hand in it. They'll do this with cows if they're trying to do research on feed stuff. So breakdown of feed. The inside of the rumen feels like a carpet. It's kind of interesting. So the rumen is the first compartment. This is where all of your microbes live. So all of the bacteria that is in the stomach that is helping break down the feed, that is in the rumen. So your rumen is like this awesome, just congealed pool of bacterium and fluid and stuff that's breaking down these large chunks of fiber. From that, it goes into our reticulum, and our reticulum continues to break things down. We go from the reticulum to the omasum, and from the omasum to the abomasum. And the abomasum is where that true stomach, where we talk about a true stomach, that's where that is. That's where your acid production is. So those are your 4 chambers. Now we're going to break down the passage of the feed from those 4 chambers. So again, I'm going to need to know what the 4 chambers are. I'm also going to need to be able to follow the path of feed or foodstuffs through those chambers. So the animal eats. It grabs grass. It chews, masticates a bit, swallows. It swallows the thing whole, goes into my rumen. From my rumen, my microorganisms break down as much as they can. They push it into the reticulum. So you can see on this diagram, it's got the arrows, so just follow and trace those arrows. So it goes down the esophagus into the rumen, from the rumen to the reticulum. In the reticulum, this is where we have some more juices, and then we form what's called cud. And so then this cud is regurgitated up back into the mouth, and the animal starts masticating and is now chewing on this cud. So when it looks like cows are always chewing or goats are always chewing, it's because they generally are, and they've got cud up in that jaw that they're chewing on. Once they've gotten that cud all masticated, they swallow it again, and then it goes into your omasum. So the small pieces are able to fit into the entrance to the omasum. So the omasum then is going to have some absorption. There's still some bacterium in there, but there actually now is going to be absorption of nutrients into the stomach. And then from the omasum, we go into the abomasum, and the abomasum is our true stomach. That's where more of that absorption is happening. That's where more of our chemical breakdown of what we've produced as far as bile and acid. So when you think of stomach acid, that is more in the abomasum. Highly acidic environment in the rumen would kill your microbes that are in there. So it is a different type of environment. So again, make sure you are able to trace that feed through the passage of the intestinal tract of a true ruminant. This video is pretty awesome. Just focus on the front part. Once she starts talking about enzymes, you don't need to know about all the enzymes of the stomach. Just that first like 2.5 minutes. It's a pretty awesome video talking about the breakdown of the passage of the feed. So that's really what I want you to focus on with this, is following that green bolus, right? So in the center of that picture right there is a green bolus. So that's the feed stuff. So I want you to really focus on that movement and that passage of the food. This video is pretty awesome. What you're looking at is a fresh stomach from a cow that was slaughtered. So they were butchering it for food, I do believe. But he was able to show you what the different chambers are, and so you can see the size, just how really large a stomach, the 4-chambered stomach of a cow is. And all the bacterium is still alive inside of that stomach, so it's producing gases. That's pretty nifty. All right, so next and last, we'll talk about avian digestion. So we covered monogastric. We talked about omnivores, carnivores with very simple single-chambered stomachs, large small intestine, almost no cecum. We talked about our monogastric hindgut fermenters with the large cecum and a longer intestinal tract, such as our equine, our rabbits, our guinea pigs, and the such. And then we talked about our pseudo-ruminants, 3-chambered stomach animals, and we talked in depth more about our 4-chambered or our true ruminants, being cows and goats and giraffes. Now we're going to end on avian digestion. So avian digestion is an example of a monogastric system. So they have a single compartment. But if you notice, if I'm looking at these images, I'm missing something. And the thing is, what I'm missing. Send me an email. Email me, do subject line is extra credit. In the body, I want you to tell me what these images are missing. So there is an organ that I'm pretty sure you'll figure out what's not there. So send me an email, get some extra credit. So main parts of your avian digestive tract is going to be your crop, which holds the food. We have a proventriculus, which is where the enzymes break down the food, and then we have a gizzard, which are the muscles and coarse material that grind up the food. So when we had the chickens, I know you guys miss the chickens. I know I miss the chickens. I bet they're doing great. But when we would feed them grit, right, we put the rocks in their food. This is why we want those rocks to go in the gizzard, because that's then going to help bind up the materials, so, or grind them up. People will eat chicken gizzards. If it feels gritty, that's why, because you're eating this muscle and it's a real coarse muscle. So those of you that like to eat chicken gizzards, you're eating a part of their gastrointestinal tract that is meant to grind up everything, which is why, again, that it's gritty in there. The crop is holding the food. So when we do nutritional support for our birds and we do what we call lavage feeding, we're able to put a tube down their esophagus into their crop, and then we fill that up. Now you can bust a crop. So if you are in a position where you're working with exotics or you're working with birds and you are tube feeding them, you do need to be very careful that you don't overfeed them, that you don't bust that crop open. But this is a way too that you can see how much food the bird has been eating, because that crop will swell up. So this is going to be a video that is going to show you the passageway of the feed stuff of an avian, which is going to be able to go far more in depth than I am. The main thing you want to just remember with your avian anatomy for the gastrointestinal system are just the 3 main organs, or the 3 main pieces of it. So the crop, the proventriculus, and the gizzard. But you will need to be able to trace the way the foodstuffs goes too. So make sure you're watching this video and take some extra notes.